Hi, I'm Scott at ediblemusic.com. If you're having trouble getting your mixes to sound comparable to other songs in the genre or songs that you like, then you might want to try using reference tracks. And before I give you some help on how to use them, I want you to comment and tell me about a song or a couple of songs that you think serve really well as reference tracks. I want to make a playlist that we can all access and make use of in order to have a library of super high quality reference tracks. So give me a comment and tell me what you think. The first way to use reference tracks is to get a really good sense of your listening environment. And I want you to choose a few here. The first, of course, will be the system that you're mixing on. Could be your monitors, could be headphones. Whichever it is, that will be one referencing system that you use. The second you should choose is whichever system that you listen to music on the most. For many people, it's earbuds, could be a laptop or a tablet, could be a vehicle. Choose that one as your second. And then for the third one, choose something that usually doesn't even sound all that good. It could be, one of those old Bluetooth speakers, or it could be another set of earbuds that just aren't as good. And I want you to choose a few because then it will help you get familiarity with how the reference track sounds on each of these systems. And in turn, it will give you a sense of familiarity with how your mixes can or should sound also on those same reference systems. When you choose a reference track, learn the ins and outs of everything about how it sounds on these different systems that you choose. It doesn't have to sound amazing on everything because we listen to music in many places and on many systems where a song doesn't sound great. But if you're, for example, in the grocery store and you hear a song that you love come on, the speakers are like 30 feet away from you. It doesn't sound great, but you can hear it and you can pick out the good parts of the song nevertheless that will come down from the ceiling and will still sound good. As opposed to listening to music on your earbuds, that's a whole other different experience, a whole other listening system. And the second is to use different volumes on each of these systems. And I encourage you to be very systematic about this. If your monitoring or your listening system has a knob on it, maybe you will set one reference comparison setting at 9 o'clock and another at 12 and another at 3, so that you can know how the reference track sounds at varying volumes as well. And do the same thing on your earbuds or in your car or wherever. Have a volume. If it's one of those numbered volume settings, then maybe one will be at 10, one will be at 25, one will be at 50. Whatever it is, the lowest one should be where you turn down the reference, turn down the music until you can only hear the top of it. As you turn down music, some of the elements start to disappear. So listen to your reference and ask yourself, well, what do I still hear? Probably you'll hear a little bit of the snare, and then you'll probably hear the vocals, maybe some of the instruments, but others will disappear. So when you also turn down your mix to compare it at that same level on the system, does your mix also lose the same elements but maintain those same core elements that you can hear? That's a very key signal, I think, to using reference tracks, is not just to listen to them very loud, but to listen to them at different volumes and to compare your mix at different volumes as well. One where you can barely hear it, one where it's sort of a standard, normal listening level, and then of course one that's a little bit louder so that you can hear how enjoyable your mix is compared to the other. The key is to have some sense of consistency so that if your mix is played on a playlist or a mix CD, if we're going back in time, then you want it to be able to be consistent with the songs that are surrounding it. So reference tracks aren't really about copying and making your mix sound exactly the same as another song, but it's merely about knowing that your song will sound okay on different systems and at different listening levels. The first two is one, to have several systems to reference on, and the second is to listen to each of those systems at different volumes, looking out for very specific things. At the lowest volume, it will be about just having a sense of what you can still hear. In the middle volume, it will be about you'll be able to hear everything, but you'll want to make sure that you can have a sense of what the image of the track is, how the arrangement is positioned, what seems to be more up front and what seems to be more at the back, how the low end sounds, and how the top end sounds as well. That brings me to the third one, which is to reference for different priorities. You don't really want to reference a track and try to copy the snare sound or copy the vocal sound. You should instead think generally. How does the low end sound? How does the high end sound? Is yours brighter than the reference track, or is it darker on the reference track? And is it brighter only on some listening systems, and does it compare better on other listening systems? The thing about using a reference track, one that you're really familiar with, is that you'll notice how it sounds different on each of these systems that you're referencing on. So it might sound really great in your own monitoring system, on your monitors, in your headphones. It might not sound as great on some old radio that is in the back of a garage somewhere. But that's okay, because all that's telling you is how that song is represented through that system. And so you want to compare how your song is also represented through that system, and how you can manage those distinctions between different systems. So the third one is to prioritize different areas of the reference mix. How does the low end sound? How does the top end sound? How is the arrangement positioned? What sounds as though it's more upfront, and which elements sound as though they're further back? Use that to account for the shortcomings of your mix. And a quick side note, as you're comparing the reference track to your mix, switch between them very quickly. Try not to get carried away enjoying the song that you've chosen as your reference track, because you're probably going to be choosing a song that you think sounds really good and that you do enjoy. But the purpose of this practice is to get a very quick comparison of the features of the reference track with the features of your track. You'll probably choose a reference track that you really enjoy, but remember, this is more about gaining a familiar sense with how the monitors in your listening system are representing the music. So it's less about the song. Try not to get carried away listening to the song. It doesn't work as well when you're listening to the entirety of the reference track and then the entirety of your mix as well. It's more so about getting an overall view of how these features, the low end or the dimension or the dynamics of the reference track, in relation to your mix. Choose a great song, but don't just choose it because it's a great song. Have a really deep understanding of all the ins and outs of the song that you're using as a reference track, and how the different listening systems that you're using present that song in ways that make it sound as great as it does. And then you'll be able to utilize that familiarity both with the track and with your listening environments to transfer and make the changes and fixes that you might need to make on your mixes. Again, let me know what reference tracks you think would be really useful for your mix. I want to compile them, I want to listen to them, and I'm going to put them together on a playlist so that we can all have a resource that we can share.